Short of a Dollar, the show where we give our 2 cents and keep it 100. We're your hosts. That's Motiz, and I'm Rue. Today we're here to talk about the greatest fight card of the century, or is it? So, I mean, a lot of news. I think we've all been on the internet. We all been clicking through, so we seeing what's been going on. But I just want to talk about this card because I still think there's some great fights on it. What I appreciated about this card, just from the outside looking in on paper, a lot of 50-50 fights, bro. A lot of 50-50 fights. And I just want to run through them. But just your initial impression when you saw this card, just how did you feel about it?
Be quite honest, and I think we talked about this in one of our old previous videos. I thought it was a fantastic card. Arguably one of the best cards in boxing, right? We always talk about this. Like the bar is getting set higher and higher. But ultimately, I enjoyed the card. And it's crazy because even fights like Shakur and Floyd Schofield, yeah, I got Shakur as the heavy favorite, but we're just curious to see how Shakur's going to look in that fight, right? Will Floyd Schofield kind of give Shakur a run for his money? Will he ascend to new heights after this fight, right? So it's just fights like that really made it entertaining. Joseph Parker and Dubois, right? Where that's a 50-50 fight. That's a pick'em fight, So I thought it was a great card. And of course, we know the Bivol and Artur Beterbiev. So I love the card prior to the changes.
Right. And obviously, like you hit the nail on the head. The changes, obviously there were some changes, and seems to be something going on. But let's waste no more time. Let's talk about the fight. And I believe the opening fight, or I don't know what the order is going to be, but I was looking for the card. I was looking on Turkey's page, Ring Magazine. I was struggling to find it, so I had to just go pull it up on FanDuel. Just I wanted to make sure I got everybody's name correct. So we got Zhili, No Diddy, Bang Zhang versus I don't know if you've been seeing his interviews. Like the dude could barely speak English, bro, but he definitely. No. But any which way, we got Zhili Zhang, Big Bang Zhang versus Agit Kabayel. I know I'm butchering the name, but you guys know exactly who I'm talking about. So in that first matchup, which I think is also an excellent matchup, who are you leaning towards in that fight?
That's a pick'em fight for me.
Let me tell you what I think about this fight. I think, Zhang is 40, 41. So, people expected him to kind of slow down. And yes, I do think he is slowing down, but his fight style doesn't expend a crazy amount of energy. So I think he's one of those, like, and I'm not comparing him to this guy, but see how George Foreman was still effective when he got older?
You know what? I take it back just listening to you, right? Because and we talked about this, right? In terms of like you mentioned, like Zhang and his ability to have a few more fights, but we really talk boxing all the time. And me hearing you talk, right, is kind of like bringing it back, to like how I was advocating for him in the sense of like seeing him fight longer because of his style. I'm gonna go Zhang Wei. I'm gonna go Zhang Wei only because also he's really cool with one of the fighters that was boxing out of my gym in Brentwood is
Nice.
Cindy. So like, what I mean? He be visiting her office on us. So I'm gonna go Zhang Wei. I'm gonna go Zhang.
Dope. But what I was getting ready to say is, I guess one of the questions about Zhang is his motor, right? If you look at both the Joe Joyce fights, those fights stopped early. I don't think they made it past, I don't know, 6 or 7. So I think he stopped Joyce twice in the first half of the fight. So, some people are questioning his motor. And, can Caballero take him to deep waters and outbox him? You saw what happened with Joseph Parker. He knocked him down a few times. But as the fight wore on and Parker kept coming, what I'm saying, he was able to take that fight. So wondering if Caballero could do the same thing. I think Caballero is a little bit smaller than Parker. So I can see Zhang imposing some of his size. But I'm going to go ahead and say I think we can see Zhang being maybe outboxed early. But then I think he's going to hit Caballero with something big and change the fight. Now, if Caballero can, go all 12, he probably takes this. But I'm going to go on the limb and just say Zhang gets a stoppage in this one. And I'm going to take Zhang as well to win this one.
Okay.
So we agree there. We both got Big Bang Zhang there. Then it's Joshua Butsai and Callum Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Another interesting fight, but I mean, other than Shakur, I would say coming into this, just looking at, particularly the odds, I would say Joshua Butai is probably the biggest favorite on the card, other than Shakur versus Schofield. But styles make fights, so this is a bit of an interesting one. And Callum Smith has experience; he's fought some tough guys in there. So just who do you have in this fight?
Man, Callum Smith is not winning this fight. Callum Smith is over the hill, in my honest opinion. He's not winning this fight. I think the betting odds got it right on this one.
Okay.
I don't know. Do you feel different? Any different than I feel? Like, what are your thoughts?
Nah, I'm against Callum Smith on this one as well. But why do you think you just think just going against the guy that's just too young, too strong?
Too young, too strong. I think Callum Smith is over the hill. He's been in some wars. He's just at this point just fighting just to fight. Like he just don't know when to kind of pack it up. In my honest opinion, especially when you're fighting this caliber of fighter that really wants it, is hungry. But I do think, I'm not saying that it's going to be kind of a whitewash where Callum Smith gets blown out the water. Obviously, not. He has a chance. It's ride season, right? But I just don't see him really, winning this bout. I really don't.
Yeah.
Given where he's at in his career at this point, So
I'm with you. So another one where consensus we agree. The next one now, we got Carlos Adames versus Hamza Sheeraz. So that's an interesting fight because Adames, who's actually been on a very good streak, is the underdog in that fight. So any opinion there?
I'm going for the underdog here. I'm going with Adames. Okay. Let's go. I'm going with Adames. I feel like Adames can always change the outcome of a fight. He's a big puncher, on both hands. He's pretty durable, but not gonna lie, his opposition is pretty tough too. I didn't know too much about him. I did watch some of his fights. He kind of got like I would say, I don't want to say an unorthodox style, but he's a decent boxer, but nothing that really kind of shown me that Adames is out of this, out of the ballpark here. I kind of consider this situation one of those, the opposite of Baby Anderson versus Bacoli in a sense, where most of the fandom or the boxing fans didn't really know who Bacoli was because he was overseas, right? Versus knowing Baby Anderson and people favoring Baby Anderson. I think it's the complete opposite. I think, most people will probably know, who I'm clearly rooting for at this point in time versus his opposition. But I feel like it's, in this case, might be for good reason. So I got Adames winning this fight. But I think if there's going to be an upset here, it's going to be Adames way. That's my opinion.
Yeah. And even if this one was an upset, I still see it as a 50-50 fight. But, I'm actually going to go Hamza Sheeraz on this one. And what I think is a little bit more length. He really good hand speed, likes to throw punches in bunches, which sometimes can get you in trouble, right? If it opens you up for something. And like you said, Carlos Adames is a big puncher. So you keep throwing those punches in bunches, you know what I'm saying? If he happens to, like, maybe he's catching those, you open yourself up for something, to return. But I'm going to say, and I don't know the guy's name. I can't think of it right now, but Adames, I believe, has one loss in his career. And the guy that he lost to, I think, is a similar build to Hamza Sheeraz. Kind of like lanky, taller guy, long jab. So I'm gonna say history repeats itself, and I'm gonna say Adames is gonna take a loss to another kind of long, lanky guy. Would I be surprised if he wins? No, but I think to win, I think he's gonna have to hurt Sheeraz. I don't think he's just gonna outbox him for 12, right? Or over the course of 12 rounds. I think he's gonna have to hurt him and have him in trouble, possibly stop him. But I'm gonna go Sheeraz on this one. I'm gonna say the length and the jab is just gonna be the difference in this one.
Yeah, the height difference. I mean, he's much 6'3" versus 5'11" is a considerable difference for sure. But yeah, I just think ultimately, especially with longer fighters, a lot of the times, unless you're a phenomenal boxer, you are pretty. When you start boxing, usually the taller fighter has an advantage, and then when you're an exceptional boxer, you have the advantage. But a lot of the times, in that middle ground area, the shorter fighter that is walking you down has the advantage, especially when they get within range because their punches are shorter. And I think it's going to be like that this fight, but I'm not mad at the pick, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
This is, it can go either way,
I mean, these are close fights. I'm not going to tell you I'm certain in any of these picks, but these just opinion, right? Next fight on the card, though, is probably my favorite fight on the card. Probably the one I'm looking most forward to. Some way, somehow, every time this guy fights, like the possible matchups are just like so intriguing to me. So we got Virgil Ortiz versus Israel Madrimov, and man, just a very good fight. Before I get into that fight, though, I just want to ask your opinion. Do you find it weird? I guess it had to be for the money, right? But it was also Riyadh season, so he was going to get paid. Do you find it weird how Madrimov just snuck out of the Boachuk fight, and it's like nothing was really mentioned, and all of a sudden we thought he was a dog. Like, oh, you fight in December, then you coming back to fight in February?
Yo, and I remember you saying that, like, yo, he's fighting. Isn't he fighting like 2 months? And I'm like, what? And I had to go and verify, and I'm like, you are absolutely right. They got him fighting. So, I mean, clearly he's not that crazy. You know,
Yeah, he's not
those
that
are
great.
2 vicious fights. You know, this is definitely a very interesting fight. 2 fighters that can somewhat punch. Now, Virgil has been somewhat suspect at the 154-pound division in terms of his KO ratio. He was stopping everybody at 147, but once he moved up, you can kind of see a difference in his punching power. He can still crack, but clearly not, not the same, especially going against his last opponent,
Yeah.
right? Which we all seen how that fight went. But just to kind of get out the way, I got Madrimov winning this fight.
Okay.
I think Madrimov just IQ's a bit higher. He's more sneaky with his punches, especially the way he fought Terrence Crawford. Phenomenal fight. Honestly, gave Terrence Crawford some issues. So much so that he had Crawford going on his back foot for most of the fight, and his punching power was still enough to keep Bud honest. Now with Virgil Ortiz, can his pressure kind of, allow for him to be successful in this fight? Maybe in some occasions, absolutely. But in some instances, I don't know how he's going to be able to deal with, the footwork, the punches in certain angles, especially how he's dipping and then throwing that, lead punch straight down the middle, and then I'm just going based off of Virgil's last fight. I didn't like the way he looked in his last fight, showed some cracks in his armor. And, I love Virgil Ortiz, but I can be very impartial when discussing, these matchups. So I'm going Madrimov.
Yeah. I mean, I know I briefly mentioned this to you previously. I was, like Madrimov, just the awkward footwork, the constant moving style, strong jab, good right hand when you're coming in, and Virgil's going to be coming in, right? So there's high potential for him to be eating that right hand all night. Like you said, definitely was a challenging fight for Terrence Crawford. I saw all those things, and I'm just like, yo, bro. Virgil's last fight against Boachuk put him down 2 or 3 times. But I don't know, bro. Last minute, I just switched, and I got Virgil Ortiz, bro. I got Virgil Ortiz. I think Virgil Ortiz is gonna go get him. I think what Terrence didn't want to do is kind of just go in there and get him, right? Because he knew, like, Madrimov has respectable punching power. He's a strong guy. So Terrence didn't want to go after him. I think Virgil's going to go get him. And I do think he's going to eat some right hands coming in, but I do think he's going to put Madrimov in uncomfortable positions and make him have to kind of like fight and brawl on the inside. And not that he's incapable, but I don't think that's where he wants to fight. He kind of wants to fight in the center of the ring, right? But I think Virgil's going to make it uncomfortable. I think he's going to go after him, work the body, and probably slow him down a little bit. I don't think he's going to completely immobilize him, but I think he's going to work the body, slow him down a little bit. I think we're going to see some real banging on the inside, but I'm going to say Virgil just being a bit stronger, a bit of the bigger puncher. I'm going to go Virgil. I don't think he stops him, though, but I'll say maybe Madrimov touches the canvas and Virgil takes this one.
Okay.
Right.
Not mad at it at all.
Yeah, so now we had Shakur Stevenson versus Floyd Schofield. Now we have Shakur Stevenson versus Josh Padley. And just putting this out there for what it's worth, my man Bert, he texted me. He said, yo, I got Shakur by a split decision. I said, split decision against Josh Padley? Or do you think he's still fighting Floyd Schofield? He was like, no, against Padley.
Oh, okay.
And
all right.
I'm like, oh, interesting. So I guess I had to ask, what's your take there?
I'm not gonna lie, he's not crazy, because I think I told you about this earlier. People don't realize how difficult it could be, and that's why it makes the amateur circuit somewhat competitive. because if you don't know your opponent and you don't have really a game plan to kind of adjust to last minute, not only people think about the last minute effects of someone jumping into a fight only affecting the person that's jumping into the bout. It also affects the person that was preparing for another fighter and they ended up, falling through, right? So in Shakur's case, it's going to affect him because he's not really used to that type of style that he's going to bring, especially if it's a somewhat unique style. Not saying Shakur hasn't seen that style before, but just bringing that type of energy, maybe also the intangibles, how fast he is, rhythm, tendencies. That's going to allow Shakur more time to get acclimated in the ring. You get what I mean? Especially with Shakur, what he's dealing with, hand injuries. So I think Shakur is going to somewhat struggle for the first half of his fight, unless he's clearly way superior to this fighter, right? But this fighter have notable wins, where one in particular where he was an underdog and, he beat one of the better fighters. I'm not really too familiar with his resume per se, but he has enough wins where he can pose a threat, especially if he's being added on to red season. If you're on red season, I'm not overlooking you. That's just how it works. You know what I
I
mean?
think that's
So
fair.
I don't think he's wrong, in terms of and saying, split decision, honestly, but I
Yeah.
do have Shakur winning by unanimous decision.
Yeah, no, I think he's crazy, bro. I think Shakur cruises to an easy win in this one. Not too familiar with Josh Padley's work. I know he has 15 fights, 4 knockouts. Um, Numbers can be deceiving, but that leads me to believe he's not a very big puncher. I'm not sure his athleticism, if he's going to be able to cut the ring off on Shakur. I hope after this fight, there's no long performance and this is no knock to Shakur, but I think this could be the most boring fight of the night because I think it's going to be, Shakur kind of standing his ground, doing a
Yeah.
little, little jab, jab, tap, tap, little some counters here. I just don't, like I said, I'm not that familiar with Josh Padley's style, so please correct me if I'm wrong. I just don't know if he's going to come and get Shakur. I don't know if how aggressively he's going to come after him to force Shakur's hand. So Shakur's just going to be able to sit comfortably and pick his spots and do his little you know what I mean? So
Yeah, but he's aggressive enough. I would say I want to say he's one of those like charm boxers, being so he's probably going to be the aggressor. But my question to you is, with this, right? If Shakur's fighting somewhat similar to how he fought De Los Santos, would it be a clear win though?
I I mean, if he fights that way, I don't know that he's gonna fight that way. Like I feel like you have to like make him he has to be uncomfortable. I don't see him being comfortable in this fight. And I just see him splitting the guard all night and just cruising to a
Okay.
unanimous decision. Um
Okay.
yeah, I mean I know the De Los Santos fight, but I don't know. I think you got to pressure Shakur. You got to like make him move and make him uncomfortable. If not, just gonna sit there comfortably and just outbox you.
Okay. Well, we're on the same boat though. With Shakur winning by unanimous decision.
Yeah. Any
We
chance of a
just differ.
stoppage?
Yeah, we just. Oh, you got him stopping
No,
him.
no, I got him unanimous. But I'm saying, is there any chance of a stoppage? You think in this one?
Not with Shakur's hands. Not the way people are talking about his hands and how his hands look.
Okay.
Coming off surgery, I doubt it.
Okay.
But it's boxing.
Yeah. Interesting and potential for fight of the night with the fireworks. Joseph Parker fighting in late replacement Martin Bacoli. Whew, heavyweight showdown. You know what's interesting about this? I believe it was you and I. No, no, no. It might have been me and my other boy. I think we had a disagreement on Dubois versus Bacoli if they were to fight. This was like after Bacoli beat Jared Anderson, and he wasn't super high on Dubois, but he's really high on Bacoli. And I'm like, I don't know, man. That's a tough fight, bro. Don't sleep on Dubois. So it's funny enough that Dubois was supposed to fight Parker, and now his replacement is going to be Bacoli in this fight. Last time we saw Bacoli put on a hell of a performance versus Jared Anderson, stopping Jared Anderson, who was supposed to be the next phenom at heavyweight division. So go ahead, let me know who you got in this fight, but I suspect I know.
He said, I am going. This is, oh man, when you told me about it, I was like, bro, what? Joseph Parker is insane, right? But Joseph Parker is one of those fighters that was heading in one direction, had some derailment along the way, And then he kind of started to come back. He started having a redemption story, with some good wins. You can argue his win against Wilder was obvious in that sense, right? But outside of that, he has some good wins, right? Against Joe Joyce as well. And then on top of that, you could see the way he fights now is a bit different than how he used to fight. And I think with his boxing ability and being able and how quick he is, he can definitely pose some issues for Bacoli. The problem though with Bacoli is Bacoli is very durable. And he has this style where he just walks forward and drains your energy. He has the modern day George Foreman style, literally.
Mm-hmm.
Just walks forward and can punch. I'm going Bacoli's way.
Yeah.
If Joseph Parker cannot win a decision, I got Bacoli by stoppage.
Okay. Just wanted to clear one thing up. I'm sure I know what you meant. But Joseph Parker actually lost to Joe Joyce. I believe Joe Joyce.
I mean, not Joe
It was
Joyce.
Big Bang. Yeah.
Big Bang
Yeah.
Zang. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for correcting me. Yeah.
I knew what you meant. They're all intertwined because then Big Bang stopped Joe
Big
Joyce.
Bang
So,
beat
yeah.
Joseph. Yeah. Joe Joyce. It's like that triangle theory.
Yeah. I know what you mean. I just didn't want them to come for us in the comments. These guys don't know nothing about boxing.
Yeah, exactly. And irony enough, right? Like, you can probably argue because I think Bacoli's better than Big Bang Zang, in my honest opinion. They got a very similar style, but you can probably argue, well, if he beat Zang, then he could beat Bacoli. But I argue Bacoli's the bigger puncher and he's more durable than Zang. But we'll see.
That's an interesting fight. Big Bang Zang and Bacoli. Fight I need more time to think about, but bro, I don't know, man. I just been like, what's his trainer's name? Is it Andy Lee or I forgot Joseph Parker's trainer's name, but bro, it's like he's revived him. He's brought him back from like the boxing graveyard. You know what I mean? And he looks confident, and he's just tough, bro. He's a tough guy. And I mean, obviously, Bacoli's gonna have the
Andy Lee.
Andy Lee. Okay, so obviously Bacoli's gonna have the size advantage, but Joseph Parker's not necessarily a small guy. He's 6'4", probably 240 pounds, and he can really, really move, bro. I'm gonna stick with the Joseph Parker train. I personally had him beating Dubois, and I'm gonna pick him against Martin Bacoli. I just think he's gonna be able to move his feet good enough. I think he's a little bit bigger than Jared Anderson. I think Jared Anderson's 6'2". I know Jared Anderson has the skill, but I just think Parker's a more mobile guy. Great right hand. I think Bacoli, of course, Bacoli can come get you. Bacoli has a really good jab.
And it's reach.
Jab. I don't want to say really, really good.
Yeah,
it's just, but it's effective. He has effective jab.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to be a lot of right hands coming straight down. I think, can he put Bacoli down? Maybe. I don't think knock him out, but I think he can kind of slow him in his tracks. And I think Bacoli, we know what we're going to get from him, but I just think Parker can move well enough. And obviously Wilder's a shell of himself, right? But the Wilder that fought Joseph Parker looked better than the Wilder that fought Zhilei Zhang. And the only thing I can say is, like I said, I know he's a shell of himself, but Parker was so strategic in staying away from that big punch all night, right? And I know currently Bacoli is currently better than Wilder, but I'm just using the experience of being able to stay away from that big shot, being mobile, being defensively responsible. I can see him displaying some of those same tactics in this fight just to, not get stopped. And I can see him winning the decision in this one. Probably going to be a tough fight, probably a split decision. He may touch the canvas, but I got faith in him getting back up. So I'm going to actually go Joseph Parker split decision in this one.
Yeah, I see him. I see him fall on the canvas and staying there and remain of the night. Let me start talking.
Yo, Parker's a dog, bro. Like, dog.
Joseph Parker really is a dog. He really earned my respect because I think he's now one of the better heavyweights.
Which is crazy,
Crazy. Like, and it's crazy because I felt like if he would have beaten Dubois, he would give Usyk a tougher fight than Dubois would.
Yo, you're not the first person I hear talk about Parker giving Usyk a tough fight. You're not the first person.
I'm telling you, bro. I think people will be surprised, man. I swear, I think people will be surprised just given because now you got two fighters. It's not like
They're
I
not
mean, they
behemoths.
think exactly. They're not. And now you got a fighter that is really swift, can really crack, and is in there with you. It's just sometimes, how would that bear against? It's just styles make fights, but in this case, it's more so body type makes fights.
Mm-hmm.
My honest opinion. So,
Yeah,
but that's another story for another day.
man, I ain't gonna lie. That Bacoli versus Big Bang Zhang, I ain't gonna lie. That one will probably be over in 4 rounds, bro. I don't know who will win, but it'll probably be over in 4 rounds, bro.
It's not going the distance.
Yeah,
It's absolutely not going the distance. But
but
I'll say this: if Joseph Parker can get through Bacoli, boy, he got my respect.
yeah.
And if he was to stop Bacoli,
Oof.
boy,
You know what?
I might have to go on the limb and be like, yo, that boy
Don't
might
go on
have.
that limb, bro. If he beat Bacoli, you go on the limb and say what? He beat Usyk? Don't,
No, I'm not gonna go on that limb.
bro. Oof.
I'm not gonna go.
Nah, but nah,
Well,
it will
you stopped me from jumping off the
it,
cliff. Yeah.
it
Oh
will be
man.
major respect though, and I see your viewpoint too, like where Usyk fighting another athletic guy, without slow feet, who, like you said, can crack, has some movement. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it'll be an interesting fight for sure. We just may get it, because like I said, I got Parker winning this fight. Dubois wants to come back and fight. I got Parker winning that fight, so we might get, I don't know how many more Usyk got them, but we might get that fight. But
Yeah.
on to the main event of the night, the fight we all been waiting for: Dmitry Bivol versus Artur Beterbiev, the rematch. So part one, I think, great fight. Great fight. To me, probably an instant classic. I know some people wanted more fireworks, but I gotta know your audience, bro. Bivol is a movement kind of guy. He's not just a stand and bang kind of guy. So like that was like a fire fight to me, what I was looking for. But Better Beef says, okay, you think you won? Bet. I oblige you with the rematch. So now they're back. They're here. Face off. Like they look mean. They're not really interested in answering these interview questions. They're just real short, snippy. I mean, great. Granted, they don't speak great English, right? But they don't care about these questions. They're just here to fight, bro. Bivol says he's went back and watched the fight and he saw things that he should have done better and can do better and will do better. Better Beef's just like, all right, come on then. You know what I mean? So round 13, do you have this fight turning out any different than the last fight?
No, I got Beterbiev winning again.
Mm.
Got him winning again by decision. I would have went out on a limb and said by KO, TKO, but that all depends on how aggressive Bivol is going to be coming in to this fight, which can potentially happen, obviously. But ultimately, I think, Bivol, in the back of his mind, he still knows that he can't. Once he gets to a position where I can see him getting hurt, getting dropped. But then after that, I think he's just going to fight to kind of just survive at that particular point in time, unless Better Beef can get him out of there. But yeah, it's not going to change. Nothing is really going to. The fight in its totality is not going to change in essence compared to the last fight. We may see different sequences in between the rounds, right? Like Bivol maybe ending the round strong in comparison to the first fight, where you see Bivol kind of throwing vicious combinations and then he gets hurt and he backs up, and then Beterbiev does a phenomenal job for the remaining minute and 45 seconds. I think maybe in his head he's like, okay, let me just be somewhat reserved, and then the latter half of the round I just start to kind of do my work. So we can probably see that sort of change, but ultimately the outcome is going to be the outcome.
For me personally, I do see the fight looking different because I see Artur Beterbiev stopping Bivol maybe around round 10 this time.
Okay, and why? Give us your reason as to why.
I think the last fight he was a little bit more rusty coming off the surgery. I think he's gonna be a little bit more comfortable with the knee. He's a little bit more accustomed to it and kind of understands better now how he can move and use that knee after the surgery. I get it, he's getting older, but if you look at him, he still looks pretty fresh, pretty sharp. As you know, and when I say fresh and sharp, like when I look at him and Bivol, it doesn't look like he has. It doesn't look like he's a guy with what 6-7 years more mileage on him. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
they look relative to one another. Like if I didn't know them and you just told me they were the same age, I might believe you.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So I think he's gonna be more comfortable with the knee. Gonna be a little bit more comfortable coming forward. I think in his mind, he knows when I put the pressure on this guy's gonna retreat. But I think the comfort with the knee is gonna be more comfortable coming to get him this time. And I do think he's gonna hurt Bivol, but I think he's gonna be more enticed to jump on Bivol and end this fight. Bivol, my opinion, fought the best fight that he could last fight. He
Hmm.
might fight a fight comparable to that. I just think Beterbiev is going to be better than he was last fight, and I do think he won the last fight, and I think that's going to be the difference. And I know Bivol saying, he wants to, assert his dominance more, but to me, that's just going to get you stopped. If you think you're going to sit down more on your punches and trade with this guy, it's just not. It's not the best strategy. It's
Yeah.
not the best strategy. And what I love about Beterbiev is if you really watch him, very educated boxer, sets up some of these shots. And I see Bivol having success. I see Beterbiev having success. But ultimately, I just see the difference being that punching power. And I do think this time when he hurt Bivol, he's really going to jump on Bivol. And I think in the latter half of the fight, I think he's going to get the stoppage here.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because, and that's the thing about these fighters. They go into a rematch and sometimes they believe if I change my game plan in this direction, it's going to completely change the outcome of the fight, which at times it could.
Mm-hmm.
Or sometimes you can fight the same fight and still win. You know what I mean? And you just got to know your personnel. You got to know what's in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in his mind or other people's mind, maybe on his camp, maybe if he was a bit more aggressive, maybe if he was, and to your point, that can lead to his downfall, make it even worse.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if he's not smart enough, he has to understand the reason as to why he didn't get stopped the first time is because when you got hurt, you knew when to retreat. Obviously, that cost you to lose rounds, but in my honest opinion, him fighting the way he fought the first time is better than you going out there being overly aggressive and getting stopped.
Mm-hmm. You
Period.
you ever been in the ring and like you just have two split thoughts and you just get a weird outcome. You know what I'm saying? It's like I want to do this, I want to do that, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, what was that just now? You know what I'm saying? Or the trainer's like, what the hell? No, do that. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, Bivol's a professional, but I hear some conflict there, and that he wants to fight more than kind of like box, for lack of better terms. But to me personally, I don't think it was his strategy to utilize the ring the way he was. For example, Jermaine Ortiz versus Teofimo Lopez. It was Jermaine Ortiz's strategy to utilize that ring that way. I think when Bivol was in there, something was making him extremely uncomfortable, and he had to utilize that ring. And I think just instinctually, I can see that happening again. But if his brain is saying no, for me to win, I need to do this, I could just see like a weird tug of war internally, and I just think this is the wrong guy to have that with. So, as I said, I mean, maybe round 10 or so. I still think Bivol's gonna put up a hell of a fight, but I got better beef for the stoppage this time around.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this
So
was
I gotta ask you though, man, what do you think is going on in Saudi Arabia? Are people having issues with like their diets, or is it something with the cream being applied to people? Um, like what do you think is going on, right? Because all right, so and initially, were you under the impression that Floyd Schofield just ducked Shakur Stevenson, that he pulled out of this fight for whatever reason it may have been, like for fear of taking the loss or for fear of Shakur really beating him up? But were you under the perception that he just ducked Shakur?
yeah, I was leaning in that direction
Okay.
only because of course people predicted it, especially like, you heard Shakur say it, you heard Eddie Hearn say it, you heard a few other people say like,
Hmm.
hopefully he shows up to the fight because they were mentioning he was moving funny.
Yeah. Hmm.
Prior to like just the way it was like, hopefully he makes it to the fight, hopefully he doesn't get cold feet. Then all of a sudden we see, Floyd Schofield gets, pulled out the fight and, he's been admitted to the hospital. And I guess the British commissioner, they're involved, right? So,
Hmm.
and unlike the US, they're pretty strict. So him just being admitted into the hospital, they were not looking to take any chances, right? Because let's say he gets admitted to the hospital, he goes into the ring and then something happens. Now they're potentially liable. which I understand, right? So him going to the hospital doesn't really, and the way I'm looking at it, don't really tell me you're sick. That just means you just got admitted to the hospital. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It may be true, but just given everything that was happening, I was leaning towards him just pulling out the fight, maybe because of cold feet, or maybe because of lack of preparation, or they probably was like, nah, not ready, not right now. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
and which was odd because they forced the fight. They forced Oscar De La Hoya's hand. So that was pretty odd to me. But
Yeah,
that was my initial thoughts before I kind of get ahead.
but now we see Daniel Dubois in a similar situation, and I mean, don't always preface. I don't know these guys personally, but Daniel Dubois seemed like a straightforward, no real like nonsense kind of guy. Yeah, he's kind of been feeling himself a little bit since he knocked out Anthony Joshua, but like now we see same kind of similar situation with him. He's now sick and has to pull out of the Parker fight. So does that give any more merit to Floyd Schofield? Is it, maybe change the way you're looking at this situation a little bit? Like, hey, something bigger may be going on here. Maybe it's not that this guy just ducked Shakur Stevenson.
Yeah, yeah. Once I heard that, I was like, oh, maybe there is some merit to Floyd Schofield being sick, since they say now Dubois is being sick, and that was one of the things too that I seen a video, two videos in particular. One was Shakur Stevenson's cousin and someone else, where it was like, yo, if Floyd Schofield was sick, then other people would be sick.
Mm.
Like why is it just him in particular? It seems isolated, unless he's going and doing something else outside of where we're at.
Mm.
But now, lo and behold, Dubois is sick now.
Yeah.
Right? He's out sick. So now it provides more merit to Floyd Schofield's situation. Saying if they kind of felt ill, because we can have isolated cases where Dubois may be sick and then Floyd could still have, still opted out the fight. And he's hiding behind that excuse, and it's
True.
just a coincidence.
True.
Right? But I'm now leaning towards something going on, maybe an illness of some sort in Saudi. I don't know when Dubois landed in that location or in that geographical location, but I'm not sure if it's related to Floyd Schofield's illness at all. But the fact that two people got ill and have to kind of pull out the fight is telling.
Yeah, I think it's a weird occurrence. I'm not sure that it's just a coincidence. I mean, but like you said, man, me personally, I wasn't sure. I just people were letting me know like, oh, Floyd ducked Shakur. People are scared of Shakur. Shakur's the boogeyman of boxing, and I'm like, I don't know. It just felt very weird to me. Like you said, they forced his hand. It's not like they had to take this fight yet. They really forced to make this fight. And yes, they were doing some weird stuff, some goofy stuff, but I didn't really see a reason that he would pull out the fight. You know me, I'm of the notion that boxers aren't really scared of boxers, but sometimes, they're fearful of what not having that O next to their name can do for their career. And I think the only time I see boxers show a bit of fear is like when you have somebody on the other end that'll hurt you. And no offense to Shakur, amazing fighter, but I just don't think he'll hurt you. So I just didn't really see the fear from Floyd Schofield. And lately, what we've been seeing a lot of like I don't want to disrespect these guys, so participation trophy is the wrong word, but we've been seeing a lot of guys like the Pitbull crews. Like you go in there against a favorite and you put on a hell of a performance, it escalates your career. We've been seeing that happen. So I could have seen Floyd going in there and fighting his heart out, leaving it all on the canvas, losing, but then people be like, you know what, we respect this guy, we respect the effort he put in, he has a great future ahead of himself. I could have seen that being the outcome of this fight. So I was shocked when I heard that he wasn't fighting anymore. Then what I thought was weird was usually when people pull out, they let it know that they have some kind of injury. So when I see that he was pulled out by a commission, I'm just like, that is strange. I'm like, maybe there's something deeper going on here. Then when I seen the Dubois thing today, I was just thinking, everybody's body reacts different to things. I was just like, maybe it's the food. Maybe they're not accustomed to it. However, it's not the first time that Dubois fought over there. But that's not to say that this time your body couldn't have reacted different. People's bodies react to things differently all the time. But I would have to, kind of just to summarize this, after seeing the Dubois thing, I would have to lean towards, I think Floyd Schofield like has a legitimate reason to not fight. I don't think it's like out of fear.
Yeah. And to your point, I guess there's really no inherent danger when fighting Shakur. It's not like he's gonna damage you. It's not the Manny Pacquiao effect, right? It's not the Deontay Wilder effect. So, outside of maybe losing your O, but like you said, when these boxers go into the ring too, prior to them getting to the ring, they have I would say a long training camp in most instances. Money that they're paying their trainers, money that they're paying their sparring partners. So to not recoup that money is kind of a little suspect, But it kind of just reminded me, which is a much lesser version initially when I heard Floyd Schofield pull out the situation with Boots, when Boots was going to fight this fighter. I forget his name.
Virgil?
No, a Caucasian fighter, white fighter. He was supposed to fight. This is the guy that was supposed to fight before Boots fought Abanesian. Oh man, I forget the guy's name. But essentially,
Cody Crowley.
Cody Crowley, yes, he was supposed to fight Boots, and he forced his promotional company's hand as well, similar to Floyd situation. And and he ended up pulling out the fight because of issues with his eye.
Bro, yeah, I think that guy's legally blind, bro.
Like, it's something with his eye. So, like, it's the same scenario where people say, oh, he pulled out the fight. Why did he pull out? And people was even saying, like, yo, this guy's going to pull out because that was not his first time pulling out of a fight. So people were chiming in and saying that. But then he pulled out. People was like, oh, he pulled out the fight. He ducking Boots. And then to come to find out, it was an issue with his eye. You know what I mean? So kind of a similar situation. It's just the timeline is a bit different in terms of Cody Crowley didn't wait to the last minute. You know what I mean? That's really the only difference. Yeah. But
I don't know, and I'm not gonna make this video about Cody Crowley, but I do think in his case too, bro. It's not funny. I think he was pulled as well. I think he failed.
No, that's what I'm saying.
He failed the physical.
It's kind of like the British commissioner. Like, they pulled Floyd Schofield, and then in the U.S. he didn't pass the eye exam, so they pulled him. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, he can't fight. So
yeah, that dude is. Well, I'm not sure if that dude could fight again at all, bro. I think he's legally blind, bro, which is insane.
I think he's done. I believe so as well. But I'm on the same boat as you, but I'm not 100% sure. But
so yeah. I mean, what do you think this does to Shakur, right? Everybody's out there hoping Shakur puts on probably a stellar performance, and then we get maybe the Tank fight afterwards or something like that. So going against Josh Padley, let's say he's victorious. I don't really know what he can do to like get that huge marquee fight next. You know what I mean? And according to him, I know him and Tio has some words back and forth, but according to Shakur, he sees himself staying at 135 for a while. He feels good at the weight. He doesn't consider himself that big of a guy. He said Keyshawn's the guy who's going to be able to go to 140, 147. I just see me running 135 for a while. So I don't think he's going to go fight Tio at 140. So after this fight, what do you see for him? Is he going to have to then go try to get a notable name again to kind of put himself on that map to show, listen, I am a star. I garnered this kind of respect, this kind of payday?
I think he would have to. This fight will be considered a tune-up for him. So afterwards, it's like, what are you doing? If you're not fighting a top-tier opponent, then who are you fighting? Ultimately, it's his career. He's going to fight whoever he wants, regardless of what the fans say or do. I do think it might be in his best interest to kind of keep his name up to fight notable opponents that way. And this is barring any injuries that he's sustaining along the way that may take him out the sport. Short term, long term, who knows with his hands at this point. But yeah, he would have to fight, at least a notable name. At 135, what names do we do have? Lomachenko could come back, but it depends on whether he does come back and if he's willing to get in the ring with Shakur Stevenson. I know he's been thinking about retirement, but we haven't heard anything. Maybe he wants to unify with Shakur Stevenson, Who knows? Outside of that, I mean, he's probably going to end up, it's really not that many options for him. For some reason, I don't know if that Tank fight happens with and Shakur. I don't know if they fight. I really don't.
Yeah. Do you think Shakur should say, hey, Tank, listen, I'll do 70-30, I'll do 20-80. Just give me the fight. And then, prove himself. Because if he goes in there and beats Tank, it may garner a rematch. But guess what? Now in this rematch, I'm the A side. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm taking the lion's share of the money. Or going forth, it just propels him that, if you want to fight Shakur's the A side going forward. So, like,
he's not doing that.
But
he's not taking 70-30.
Should he?
He's not doing that. Absolutely.
Bro, it's gonna make so much 20. It's gonna make so much money it's probably going to
Yeah,
be.
I would do 80-20 with Tank, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
But this the problem. Like we live, and that's the thing. That's why I respect Floyd. When he fought Oscar De La Hoya, what did he take?
70-30 here.
70-30, because he knew. You know what I mean? Benavidez was willing to take $5 million. Was it $5 million? How many? It was something egregious
Yeah.
to fight Canelo. And I think the issue is Shakur thinks he's somewhat on the same level as Tank in terms of popularity.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is the same issue that Bud ran across when he fought Spence. He wasn't even going to fight Spence if he wasn't getting the money he was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Because for some reason in their mind, they confuse popularity and ticket sales, putting butts in seats, with skill.
Right.
And these are two separate variables. These are two separate ecosystems.
Mm-hmm.
And it baffles me that they don't understand that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's why I don't think the fight is going to happen, because I think Shakur is going to want more than you can argue that he's deserving of in that Tank fight.
Tough. Because, I mean, we want to see the fight, and if his hands are as bad as people say, he should probably have the fight sooner than later, right?
Exactly.
But, hey, you know, make sure you guys make sure you subscribe, jump in the comment section, tell us what you think. Did Floyd Schofield duck Shakur Stevenson? Is there something going on in Riyadh? Do you think it's the food? Was he drugged? Is it the cream? Just tell me what you think. I'm highly confused. I need our supporters to jump in the comment section. Tell us what you think's going on. Oh my God, what if another fighter drops out tomorrow morning? Man, this would be insane. But 2 cents short of $1. Like, comment, subscribe, and we're out.